Okay, Saturday, March 26th. So we had yesterday we had several air raid sirens, and apparently I think something happened in Vinica, but not sure what. Nothing happened here in Lviv, but one siren was pretty long and one was pretty short. So I got confirmation on the news yesterday, and it's kind of indicative of what's going on all over Russia now. So the mutiny, or the rebellion of the tank soldiers against their commander, that's actually true. And there's a good story on Yahoo News on what happened. Apparently they put his legs under the tank tracks and crushed both his legs, and then he later on died of his injuries. It's pretty gruesome, but he lost half of the battalion. He lost half of his, yeah. He was a battalion commander, which is a colonel, so he was pretty high ranking. And what's interesting to me is this is probably happening more than being reported. There is probably, we've heard of some small mutinies and rebellions. I know in Belarus we're hearing a lot about, I was, at dinner last night and talking to some friends, and we heard a lot about, even within the Belarusian ranks of the military, they're very reluctant to come into this meat grinder called Ukraine. They know that it would just be a bad time for them. So, neighbor's waving to me. So yeah, it looks like this Belarusian thing is not going to happen. Maybe it's pretty optimistic. Apparently, inside Belarus, some people blew up some train tracks. So there must be a lot more going on in there that they're kind of blocked out with the media. It's very hard to get news from there, but the talk in town is and it just is common sense. If you think about what Belarus is, it's an extension of Russia, but it's surrounded on three sides by Europe. Lithuania, Baltics to the north, Poland to the west, Ukraine to West Ukraine. West Ukraine is very different than the rest of Ukraine, but it's more European. So they're probably going back and forth, into Europe, into Poland. I know a lot of Belarusians study in Lithuania and Poland, so they are probably having better access to the information. And I highly doubt that they're as on board with this craziness as the Russians are. So that's quite encouraging. And then also we've had a lot of tactical victories in recent days. I mean, the planes are falling, Russian planes are falling out of the skies, helicopters are getting shot down, the Stingers and Javelins are really, really working. I mean, there are so many videos now of tanks being cooked. Apparently there's a story where Ukraine now has more tanks than they did at the beginning of the war because of all the ones they captured from Russia and repurposed. So we got, and then another headline came tomorrow that the Russians are declaring that everything is going according to plan. They will be winding up phase one of their operations, and phase two is just to focus on the Donbass region. So the way I see that news is that it's like a retreat. They're kind of announcing a retreat by saving face. That maybe they're going to, I don't know, I'm just speculating how to read that headline. It's very new. That they are going to maybe just pull out of the Kiev and the Kharkiv and focus on the Donbass area. I don't know what they're going to do with Mariupol and Kherson. They're really, there's a counterattack going on in Kherson now. So maybe the Ukrainians can get the Russians out of there. They were in there pretty stubbornly. The southern front, the Russians it's much more stubborn than the eastern front. But maybe the Russians are just going to focus on East Ukraine, and this is kind of a soft announcement for a retreat, a partial retreat, not a full withdrawal, but a partial retreat or partial withdrawal of some parts of the theater. I'm not sure if there was some backroom deal and there's going to be some sanctions lifted, or I don't know. You just don't know what's going on in the background and what's happening. I mean, but I see that as encouraging, and there's kind of like light at the end of the tunnel, or there's a turning point going on here. And they did tell us around a week ago, 10 days ago, just hang on 10 more days and things will change. So, they are definitely keeping their words. So, yeah, the tactical victories are adding up, and maybe it will get us a strategic victory of sorts. But again, I don't know which victory it'll be. Will it be completely getting the Russians out of Ukraine? Now, the friends I talked to, Ukrainian friends I talked to yesterday, said they've already written off Crimea. That even in the best of times, that was a tough nut to crack. There was a lot of Russian influence there and what have you, and the Russians really want that for the naval port. So, but they think that that getting Donbass back is within reach, and perhaps if the momentum keeps going, and the breakdown, like we see more tank drivers, turning on their commanders, and more Russian soldiers turning on their commanders or defecting. Apparently, Russian fighter pilots are offered a $1 million bounty if they defect to Ukraine. So maybe this will add up, and there will be this strategic victory. But then, as I said, I don't think it's all over until Russia completely there's regime change in Russia, until it's collapsed, because they will just reload the guns, and they may try again in the future. The sanctions, and this will fall out of the news cycle, and after some years the sanctions will be lifted. They'll start playing nice, and then use the money and benefits to rearm. We've seen this before, but at least maybe the worst is behind us. I don't know how to look at this. Maybe this is, like I say, a turning point, and things are going to start going in Ukraine's favor, and maybe also Ukraine will arm itself to the teeth, and they won't have to disarm or do all that stuff the Russians are asking for, and they'll be ready next time. I would hope so, and I hope Europe keeps up this sanctions pressure. I mean, these are war crimes, and I hope they don't forget this as soon as CNN and BBC reporters pack up and leave, that this is not all forgotten. This is really what we're hoping for. So, yeah, I don't know what the juggling act is going to be like. If the Russians retreat, is some sanctions going to be dropped, and we go, and this kind of fades in the background, and we go back to this like low intensity conflict, as they call it, in the Donbass. I mean, 14,000 people died there, but it's low intensity because it's just shooting back and forth, and it's not in the news. It doesn't grab headlines. It's not so dramatic, but there's a lot of these kind of conflicts going on all over the world. I mean, India, Pakistan, Armenia, Azerbaijan. This is in Kurdistan, I believe. There's always some low intensity conflicts. Those are the big money makers for the war industry, because they don't make headlines and people aren't appalled, and then they always they can get a steady cash flow of selling weapons and ammunition. So I hope it doesn't retreat to something like that. I hope this stays on people's minds. I just had to make some notes today. But I think tomorrow I'll talk about all this inflation and the cost at home, the cost in Europe and America, the price that we are paying for the war, and how maybe it's in some ways it might even be a good thing. But we'll talk about that tomorrow. Yeah, so it's Saturday. It's still a little cold in the mornings, but it usually can warm up to the afternoons. So I'd encourage you all to come out here to Ukraine and visit and buy an apartment when the notaries and the business reopens. But that's what we're going to be looking forward to, hopefully, that things kind of resume. Flights will start resuming. If this is true, if the Russians are, kind of, covertly, or not covertly, but subtly announcing a retreat, that they're retreating and going more just into where they were in 2014, then maybe we can start seeing flights restarting, and and things start to get back to normal a little bit. Things start to reopen, the economy to restart. It's definitely, the economy has taken quite a hit, but Europe is going to come to the rescue. They've already said that Europe and America will come to the rescue, so I don't think we'll feel it so bad here. There'll be some inflation, if anything, to deal with all this money that'll come running in here, but we'll deal with that later. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But anyway, take care. Have a nice day.